This next lesson is going to be about complaint rates. And I'm excited about this for lots of reasons, but mostly because it's just a misunderstood topic. A lot of times people hear me say the word complaint rate or your complaint percentage or something, and the most common question that we get is that because Google doesn't like it? Like Google is rating it bad? And it has nothing to do with Google or Yahoo or Outlook for that matter. It has everything to do with the person that's getting your email and how they feel about it. So we've all gotten emails that we don't like. And if it makes sense to you, you can hit that little spam report button or complaint button, or you can drag the email out of your inbox over into the junk folder or the spam folder. And all of those things count as a complaint. So when we're talking about complaints or a complaint rate, we're talking about people that you're sending to who have made a decision that they don't like the email, or they don't like the email that's coming in general from you, so they're going to mark that one as spam, so they hopefully don't get any more. So this is when the email recipient marks your email as spam or junk. The recipient can also move your email over to the spam or junk folder. And why does this matter, right? I mean, it matters for lots of reasons, but the big one is that they're just not going to get delivered. If somebody's marking stuff as spam, then that means, like for Google's going to prioritize those emails as spam from that point forward. Anything from your domain is going to be prioritized as spam for that user. So your emails aren't going to get delivered to the inbox. They might not get delivered at all, depending on how bad that spam rate is. And then your high complaint rates can actually affect your reputation. And remember, when we're talking about reputation, we're talking about the domain reputation on the back end, the sending domain. We're also talking about the IP reputation or the server that's doing the sending. And whether that's yours or a shared, it still is the same. It's going to affect reputation. And it can also lead to blacklisting. So if there's too many people who are saying, I don't like this email, or I don't like email from this domain, well, then blacklists will actually pick that up, and your domain will get listed, or your IP will get listed on the blacklist, and then it's now like the black spot. So that's not good. And it can lead to a domain being disabled, or it can lead to your whole account being disabled. If your complaint rate is too high, whether you're using Mailgun or not, it doesn't matter. SendGrid, Amazon, SDS, if even your email software like ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, if your complaint rates are too high, they can actually just disable the account. And there's not a lot of conversation about it when that happens, by the way. It's not like they reach out to you and say, hey, I noticed this is happening. We'd love to help you with it. So here are some things that you could do to make this better. And we'll give you a little time to work that out. They don't do that. So what is a good complaint rate? Most email sending providers, like the software that you're using, or the people you're sending to, like Google, Outlook, Yahoo, or SMTPs, the ones on the back end, most of them have thresholds that they're going to hold us to. They have limits, right? They can only take so much. And so if you exceed those limits, it can actually result in that disablement. The average complaint rate that's allowable is 0.10%, 0.10%. So like MailChimp, for instance, if you go into their documentation and you look at what is an acceptable complaint rate on their platform, it's going to be 0.10%. With Mailgun, it was 0.08%. I actually forgot to change the slide. It was 0.08%, but it was 0.05%. I did change the slide. Let me start over. With Mailgun, it is 0.08%, which is about it's 2 complaints every 2,500 emails that get delivered. Thank you, Tanya, for the math on that one. You send 2,500 emails, 2 people complain, 0.08, just to give you an idea. It used to be 0.05 was their limit, and they raised it about, I don't know, I want to say like 10 months ago or so, 10 or 12 months ago. So that was nice that they raised it a little bit. But if you're our client, we need that to be no higher than 0.03. So it's great that they raised it for the average person so that they don't get dinged and get stuff shut down and stuff. But it's not great to get to 0.08 on your complaint rate in your software, whether it's Mailgun or ActiveCampaign or whatever it is, right? We don't want to get that high. Google does not report complaints outside of Google. Imagine that. The largest majority of your list is going to be people who have Google accounts, Google email accounts. I have one. A lot of you have one. So let's say we mark somebody's email as spam. Google knows about that, but you'll never know. The person who sent the email will never know, but I marked the email as spam. And I mean, I kind of get that. It seems like sort of nice that no one can, like, I'd feel bad sometimes if people know I mark their email as spam. But at the same time, if the marketer does not know that you mark their email as spam, then they have no ability to stop sending it to you. So what ends up happening is the next time you send email, it goes to spam. If they're marking your email as spam, you keep sending, it still gets sent, but Google goes, oh, this person, Sally Smith, has said the email from this domain is spam, so I'll just put this email over here in the spam folder. And I guess Sally could change her mind if she wanted to. Maybe she loved that email and she's going to change her mind. I don't know. But Google doesn't report it outside. So not only do we not know who it was and we can't stop sending to them, but we also have to look at a completely different spam rate to know how we're doing with the Google users. So that 0.03 that I was talking about, that is all of the people that you're sending to that is not Google. So in order to find out how we're doing with the Google users, we have to go to Google Postmaster and look at the spam rate. When we see a complaint rate that's higher, like in our software, in our SMTP account, when you see a complaint rate that's higher than 0.03, then what you know is that that usually has a correlation with a high Google spam rate. And that's why I'm saying we don't want to get to 0.05 or definitely not 0.08. We don't want to do those kinds of things, because by the time you see that that's a problem over in the SMTP where they're going to slap your hand, it's kind of too late, because most of the time there's a nice high spike, not nice, but a high spike over on the Google spam rate report too in Google Postmaster. And we don't want to, and that's 2 days late, by the way. By the time you see that, we're talking at least 2 days out from when it actually happened. And so bad things can happen if we're not sure how things are going. You want to keep your Google spam rate well under 1%. And this is a very different number than 0.03. And it seems like, well, Kristen, how does that make sense? How do I get to, I can't even go to 0.1 for crying out loud over here on this side, but over here on this side, you're telling me I can go to 1. You can, I mean, I don't recommend it. For our clients, we want to keep that well under 0.5% in Google land, but that's still 5 times what the average complaint rate would be in your softwares. And the reason that's the case is because there's so many more Google users. There's not very many of the Outlook and the Yahoo. And by the way, like Yahoo is Ymail, Yahoo, AOL, Verizon, like that's all Yahoo. So even though we see all these different kinds of email accounts, a lot of them are all just the same company. And so the number is different, but definitely keep it well under 1%. Now, you're going to have spikes. Actually, on a lesson that I did, I don't know if it was yesterday or not, but on a previous lesson in the series, I showed you my Google spam rate on the domain that I'm using today, actually, and it was like 1.12 or 1.15 or something. It went over 1%. It was not well under 0.5%. And it's because I took a portion of my list and I sent something to them because I was testing. If you've seen my 30 Days to Unsubscribe series that I've been trying to write, this is crazy. I love it, though. I love writing this email stuff. I just had to sort of take a break from it because, you know, I'm here and this is the priority. But as I started writing these emails, I told everybody in the series, I am going to test some things. And we're all going to learn from it. So I'm doing things and I'm documenting, like I did this, like in one of my emails, I used the word open or open rate in it 25 times. Those are spam trigger words. I did that on purpose because I need to talk about opens or open rates. And so I'm testing things. So I too am going to exceed these once in a while. It's not like there's no perfection here. But luckily, when I did that, it was like a flat line, and then it went up above 1%, and then it was a flat line after that. So that little ding did not cause Daddy Google to go, now you've gone and done it. Many of us are parents. Like, give the kid a break. So don't freak out. The other thing is, like, when you see a complaint rate in Mailgun or SendGrid or in your software that's over the 0.03 or even over 0.08, understand there are ratios that are going to come into play here. It's not just, oh boy, you hit 0.08, so we're going to hand slap you now. It's you hit 0.08, but you only sent 2,500 emails. So 2 people complained. And by the way, it was the same lady. And she complained about 2 different emails. And so that actually is better, by the way, if one person complains 5 times than if you have 5 people each complaining once. The one person 5 times is going to bode a better situation for you. So if you see the numbers go over, and you often do when you're doing lower send volumes, then just keep in mind the ratios are a lot tighter when you have lower send volumes and they're doing that calculation than if you had 25,000 emails sent and a 0.08. That's different. So here's an example of what spam rate graph looks like when, it's our client, right? This is what we want to see. I mean, I'd love to see if it was a flat line, that'd be even better. But the reality is people complain, and this guy sends to his whole list a lot. So this is the 0.5% line right here. So you can see we're barely, maybe that one's like barely above it, but pretty much we're writing at or below 0.5% for all of that stuff. And it's a pretty steady thing. He does kind of the same emails a lot. It's like he has like some brand new thing he's trying. He's got certain cadence to what he's doing. So we can kind of expect that this is how it's going to go. And that's perfectly okay. So why is my complaint rate high has to be the next obvious question, because it's going to happen. Some of you, when we were looking at your Google Postmaster, I think it was yesterday, we go in there and we look at the graph and you're like, whoa, that was not what I was hoping to see, right? So now I'm thinking, like, what is going on with my email? So if you're sending unsolicited emails, if they're purchased or scraped, that's a problem for complaint rates. Clearly, these people don't necessarily know who you are or why you're showing up in their email account. Like, who the heck are you and why are you here? And by the way, I have no interest in this, or I don't want to talk with you about this. So people are going to mark those things as spam. Notice, though, we also have from a lead broker. Unsolicited emails from a lead broker. So there are companies out there, and you may have purchased leads from them before, but there are companies out there who are lead brokers. So they maybe are in the insurance industries of some kind, and they have, ads running or whatever, and they pull in leads that are interested in a particular kind of insurance policy. And then there's a bunch of insurance agents who buy those leads. So company A goes and gets the leads and then sells them to company B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then these guys send the email that says, hi, I'm so-and-so from such and such a company, and I can help you with this thing. Now, if you're the person who's getting that email, you might be wondering, like, who are you and why are you in my email account, right? It's a little confusing. So when we work with those clients, we talk to them about the importance of the branding handoff. So if at all possible, a lead generation company that's doing this really well is going to say, great, I'm going to put you in touch with. There's an automated email that can go out once they opt in, and there's an assignment that can happen. And if they're using high level, they can actually assign the leads round robin style, if they want to the various agents. Pop an email out that says, we're going to be talking with Rick Jones over here, whatever his name is, of such and such company. And then Rick gets a notification, obviously, because he got a new lead. And then from Rick's own account, whatever account he has, he can then, move forward with what he's doing. So that helps a little bit. And it also helps if they just flat out tell them, like, we have several different agents we work with. And so, we just want you to be aware that one of our agents is going to be reaching out to you. There's different language and stuff you can use. So just keep in mind, if they're from a lead broker, that can breed some problems, much like cold email, and it will seem unsolicited unless we have sort of transitions. Sending to old or unengaged contacts is also going to be problematic for a complaint rate. If it's old contacts, they might not remember you. If they're unengaged, and a lot of times they're unengaged, like when we work with clients, a lot of times the unengaged problem isn't necessarily because they haven't been sending emails. It's because people haven't been getting the emails. We work with a lot of people who have really low open rates. They come to us and they've got open rates in single digits. And then they've got this list of, and it continues to grow. Like they're still getting leads, they're running ads, they're doing their business, but their emails are just not getting in front of people. So when they finally do start getting in front of people, those people feel like they haven't heard from that company in a while. They may not even have that interest anymore. And so when you're sending to old or unengaged contacts, it's not that you can't do it. We just have to keep it in mind. And we have to start thinking about like, how are we going to re-engage these people? You know, what kind of conversation are we going to start with these people? So we're not just coming at them with an offer. Hey, check out this webinar that we're doing on Thursday, right? We don't want to like just come at them like that if the open rates have been so low that they might not have even heard from us in a while. But it can lead to higher complaint rates. And then if you don't have an unsubscribe option, then you leave them no choice. If they don't want email from you, what are they going to do? They can keep deleting them, but that's going to get old after a while. So if you don't have an unsubscribe option, even if somebody I want to be nice, I don't want to mark somebody's email as spam. I just don't like doing it unless it's like truly a spammer. But if there's no unsubscribe option or I can't find her or it's not working, that happens too, well, then I don't have a choice. Now I have to mark it as spam. And that's a real bummer. And we see that a lot. The other option here for getting a nice high complaint rate, if that's what you're after, is to send a poor message to audience match. And this happens a lot with full list sends. The whole blast mentality that I've talked with you guys about a few times now, and I've said it should be the exception and not the rule. Most marketers look at it the opposite. It's the rule, and it would be the exception to send more segmented. And of course, most marketers get what? Average results. Okay, so poor message to audience match is definitely going to increase your high complaint rate. Oh, actually, I want to give you a little story on that because I have a client who's a physician. He passed away recently. It was probably 3 months ago, I think. And his team, had to keep going. It's just one of those situations. This gentleman's face was on everything. Every training, every webinar, every ad, everything. And he was just a wonderful, lovable man. And we were looking in my software, EmailRx, at some stats because it was like, you want to talk about a dip in productivity, trying to manage the depth and duration of that. It's been difficult for their whole team for all facets, not just email. But we saw in our software, EmailRx, that they had some high complaint rates, which is what we're talking about. And so we dug in. It's not just this domain. Okay, it's in this location. Awesome. It's in these two workflows primarily. These are where the high complaint rates are coming from. And we knew, and those were some of their largest workflows, the ones that had, like 30 emails in them. They were post-webinar registration type stuff. And so there were tens of thousands of people coming into those workflows. And so we dig into the workflows and we see that it's like the first 5 emails that people are, and then after that, it kind of drops off because clearly the people who've complained aren't in the workflows anymore. So they're not getting the emails. So after the first 5 emails, I guess everybody's had enough at that point. But we had to figure out, why were these emails such a problem? If it was one email, especially if it wasn't the first one, that's way easier to figure out. But it's the first few emails. What's happening here? And so we pulled up the emails on the screen. I wish I had them here to show you, but we pulled up the emails on the screen. And it was for a webinar, and it said, thank you for registering for XYZ webinar. Awesome. And as soon as I read the top of the email, the person that I'm working with on their team said, oh no, that's not the webinar they signed up for. Awesome. That was problem number 1. And problem number 2 is because this gentleman is no longer with us, they are trying desperately to transition over to a new face. And actually several faces, not have it all on the one. And so the other problem was when they took me to the landing page for the webinar registration, and you could see the title, clearly not what was in the email. You could see the thumbnail of the video that was on there, not that person. And then guess who the email was from? Dr. So-and-so, name at drsoandso.com. And so if you're the recipient of that and you're not familiar with that person as the attractive character, that could also be confusing. Or if you are familiar with that person and you know that he passed away a couple months ago, that might also be a little weird. And then on top of that, the name of the webinar is not what you registered for. So you can see how this just kind of like spiraled. But it was so easy to see because we just pulled up the software. We said, look, high complaint rate. Let's dig down and find out where it's at. It's in this location. It's in these two workflows. We knew they were webinars. We saw which emails they were. We went into the emails, and as soon as we started opening them up, we saw the immediate problems, and they were able to address it. So poor message to audience match, I think that's probably a pretty good picture of a way that could happen. It's not even that you just suck at copywriting, right? Because we all have those concerns. Like, I'm not a copywriter. I don't know what I'm supposed to write. But sometimes it's just something like that. All right, so how do we keep that complaint rate low? Obviously, we want to send to warm, opted-in contacts. People who have requested to be on your list. Not that they said, can you please put me on your list? I actually have a funnel right now. Whoops. Okay, and then limit sending to the older contacts. We've talked about the 1 year mark being kind of like a line to draw in the sand. Limit the sending to the over 1 year contacts. If you haven't been sending to them, if they're not engaged, unless you're doing a re-engagement campaign, something like that, which I'd recommend doing every quarter, so we shouldn't get to this place. Let's just say that out loud. We shouldn't get to this place. We shouldn't have contacts that are unengaged for over a year because we should be doing other stuff to keep them engaged, to re-engage them. There's lots of ways to do that. Have an unsubscribe option in every email for dang sure. Make sure you have a way for people to opt out. I have an entire lesson. We're going to talk about that. And then segment your audience. Try to get a better message to audience match. Try to talk to people right where they're at. Not everybody on your list is at the same place in their journey. Some of them are problem aware, most of them usually. Some of them are solution aware, a few of them. And some of them are product or service aware. They actually are aware of your product or your service. But most of them are just problem aware. And so if we start treating everybody as though they're solution aware and we start handing them solutions, then we could start losing people. We could start getting lower open rates. The psychology is just different. We could start getting higher complaint rates. They're just trying to sell me something. Yeah, we are. But we don't really have permission to do that yet if they're just problem aware, because they don't even know that we understand their problem or care about them in some way. They're not looking at us for a solution right now. They're looking at us to see if we understand their problem. So we have to be careful about those kinds of things when we're writing our emails.